Pre-season testing is over and it is officially race week and the start of the 2024 F1 season. The long wait is finally over and that means that it is time for my Bahrain Grand Prix preview and predictions. This is a series where I'll be previewing and then at the end of the video I'll be giving out my early predictions for what I think will happen in the Grand Prix. If you enjoy the video then please hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. Now, let's get straight into the video. As usual, I'll be talking about the top 5 teams, which is Aston Martin, McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes and Red Bull, a little bit later on, so stick around for that. Pre-season is over and the first race of the year takes place at the same place as pre-season testing, which is the Sakhir circuit in Bahrain. Because of this, the teams will already have a great understanding of the circuit and how their cars will perform around this track. The track is not only a good track for testing, but it is also a great place to go racing as the circuit will challenge the cars in a number of different ways. Alongside challenging the cars in a number of ways, the circuit also features plenty of long straights, which allows for plenty of opportunities for overtakes, and usually we do see some great racing here. Due to the straights, teams with good straight line performance will typically see a benefit around here, so it will be interesting to see if teams such as Williams and Haas will still have the same edge that they did last season. Honestly, I don't think that they will, and I think Williams and Haas could be in for a tricky weekend this year. Also, teams like Alpine and Sauber may be on the back foot if they've not solved any particular straight line issues that they had from last year. Honestly, Alpine do look like they're in a difficult position, as well as Williams and Haas. And Sauber, it's hard to say where they are. They typically do run a little bit light in testing, and they did look alright in testing and potentially ahead of Alpine. But that could have just been down to the fact that Sauber typically run light. Alongside the circuits having plenty of straight sections, it also features a number of heavy braking zones, and also some slow speed corners, which will challenge the cars not only on the brakes, but also the mechanical grip of the cars in the slower speed. Since the new generation of cars in 2022, they've typically struggled more in slow speed corners versus the previous generation between 2017 and 2021. With this now being the third year of these regulations, I am intrigued to see if they've been able to properly improve in this area. One of the other reasons why Bahrain typically produces good to great races, outside of the fact that the circuit lends itself to plenty of overtaking opportunities, is the fact that the circuit is also brutal on the tyres. The surface is one of the roughest on the calendar, and this itself leads to a lot more tyre degradation. Because of this, Pirelli will be bringing the hardest tyres in the Pirelli range, meaning that the C1 will be the hard tyres, the C2 will be the medium tyres, and the C3 will be the soft compound of tyre. Due to the tyre wear last year, there was a total of 48 pit stops, with the drivers using a mixture of soft and hard tyres. I anticipate that we will see another multi-stop race this year to start the season off nicely, with the drivers using a mixture of the soft and hard tyres once again. Maybe we'll see the mediums, but they didn't appear last year and the tyres haven't changed this year, so I don't really think we'll see the mediums. This would make sense as the majority of teams already decided to take the C3 tyres to pre-season testing, showing that they want to get as much data on those tyres as they possibly could. Overtaking in Bahrain, like I said, is usually one of the easiest circuits of the year. However, last year that didn't seem to be the case, as there was only 37 on-track overtakes. To help with overtaking, the Bahrain circuit features 3 DRS zones, one down the pit straight, one on the run into turn 4, and the final one on the exit of the tricky turn 9, turn 10 braking zone. It will be interesting to see if the teams find overtaking a little bit easier this year versus last year. Last year's pole position lap time was a 1:29.708, and that was set by Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. During that qualifying lap, he managed to reach a top speed of 323 km per hour. I will be interested to see if the top speed will be higher or lower than in the previous year. The fastest lap in the Grand Prix was a 1:33.996, and that was set by Zhou Guanyu in the Alfa Romeo on the penultimate lap of the race. I anticipate that both the qualifying and the race fastest lap will be beaten this year, as the teams now have a much better understanding of these cars and regulations. I just want to say that if you are enjoying the video so far, then I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. I'm so close now to 5k subs, and I would really appreciate it if you help me get there. Now though, let's get back to the video and let's talk about the top 5 teams, starting with Aston Martin. For Aston Martin, their pre-season was one of the more tricky ones to read. In 2023, it was clear that they were in a great position to potentially fight Red Bull. They were very aggressive in pre-season last year, but this year they went about their business very quietly. It's hard to say what the reason for this was, but they were definitely a little bit more anonymous this year versus last year. Potentially they were keeping their cards closer to their chest, but given how they ended the season in 2023, I wouldn't be surprised if they are starting this season on the back foot when compared to last year. There is a chance that Aston Martin could quite easily be the 5th fastest car, or maybe even the 6th fastest car behind RB. If this is the case and RB are ahead, then this could be one of the few times this year that they have a segment in the top 5 teams. For Fernando Alonso, he will be hoping that this is not the case, and he will be hoping that there is more pace in the Aston Martin than pre-season was able to show, and that they are in a position to fight. He will be wanting to find a way back to the podium. For his teammate Lance Stroll, if Aston Martin are not as competitive this year, then he will need to maximise every weekend, as points will not be as easy to come by. It is going to be difficult to rank Aston Martin at the moment, and we will need to see what happens when the weekend gets underway. For McLaren, their pre-season test showed that they do have decent pace when they are running. We did, however, see some reliability issues for them on both day 2 and also day 3. Because of this, McLaren were left on the back foot as they didn't get a great deal of mileage. For the McLaren team, like Aston Martin, it is kinda hard to judge where they will be, but it does seem fairly certain that they will be ahead of Aston Martin and RB, and they will likely be fighting Mercedes and potentially even Ferrari. For Lando Norris, he lost a lot of time on the final day of testing, but thankfully for him, he now has a decent amount of experience, as he has 5 full seasons of F1 experience under his belt. For his teammate Oscar Piastri, this is now his 2nd season. He had a great first year, but lacked some race pace. In testing, it looked like he has improved in some of these areas, and I think it will be good to see if he has improved his race pace and his ability to look after the tyres. The Bahrain Grand Prix will be the perfect test for him, as Bahrain is notoriously difficult on tyres. If Piastri has improved in this area, then he should be able to maintain the pace better in what could be a 2 or maybe even 3 stop race. For Mercedes, their pre-season test was much more impressive than it was last year and the year before that. On day 1 and day 2, both George Russell and Lewis Hamilton focused mainly on race runs, so some of their pace was hidden. But towards the end of that second day, we started to see Mercedes stretch their legs a little bit more and see what pace they have. Before the test, there was a feeling that they would definitely be behind McLaren, and after the test, it's starting to look like that they could have a good battle with McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari. For Mercedes, they just need to have improved their 1-lap pace. Their race pace was always fairly solid, but the 1-lap pace was a big weakness last year, and so far, it's hard to say if they've improved on that 1-lap performance. It looks like they might have done, but we will have to wait until qualifying to find out for sure. For Ferrari, their pre-season was very strong, and it looks like if testing is anything to go by, then they could be the ones who take the fight to Red Bull. That is, if anyone can actually get close to the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. Both Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz already looked at home in the Ferrari. They had pretty strong 1-lap pace, and it has to be said Carlos Sainz had some fairly impressive race runs as well, as the Ferrari has seemingly improved on their tyre wear issues from last year, which heavily affected them when it came to the Grand Prix. I anticipate that the fight between McLaren, Mercedes and Ferrari will be close, but I do think Ferrari will have the edge, especially at the moment, and I do think Ferrari can fight at least one of the 2 Red Bull cars. Finally, for Red Bull, the pre-season test for Max Verstappen was simply lovely. everything pretty much fell into place for Verstappen, and he was on form from the second he got into the car, and he is looking mighty at the moment. For his teammate Sergio Perez, there was definitely more work to do in order to get the most performance. But it has to be said, Red Bull right now are in a position to continue winning with Max Verstappen. I think he is going to have some competition in qualifying, but when it comes to the main race, I am not sure yet that Ferrari are quite there. For his teammate Perez though, I can see him being a little bit behind his teammate and being vulnerable to the Ferrari cars. So what are my predictions for the first race of the year? Well, I think the top midfield team and driver will be Daniel Ricciardo in the RB. RB have definitely moved forward as they've aligned closer to Red Bull Racing. But what about in qualifying? Well, I'm going to take a bit of a punt when it comes to qualifying and say that Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari will take pole position. I kind of want him to just for entertainment purposes, and it will show that Red Bull are not going to have it all their own way in 2024. But what about the race itself? Well, I think the top 5 will be Lewis Hamilton in P5 in the Mercedes, Carlos Sainz will be in P4 for Ferrari, P3 will be Sergio Perez, P2 will be Charles Leclerc, and yes, I anticipate that the wins will continue for Max Verstappen. But that is what I think. The question is though, what do you guys think? In the comments down below, let me know. And as always, comment, leave a like, and subscribe for more F1 content. Thank you all so much for watching.